So my name's Tyler. I'm a music performance major. I play classical double bass, which is something that's always been like really part of my life. Like I've been playing music since I was 10. I'm originally from Florida. That's where I grew up. It's kind of a cool place where I'm from. It's like Central Florida, right between Orlando and Tampa. So I was able to like go to Disney World and all that kind of stuff all the time.
Yeah.
Not as progressive as a place as you would think, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
I came from a very, very conservative family. So like, my dad is from Georgia and my mom's German, military. So I guess basically like when I was in high school, I was discovering myself and discovering who I was and figured out, oh hey, like I think I like guys. Which for me, like growing up in such a conservative place was like, oh, what is this? Like,
Sure.
How can I like guys? Like that's wrong. Blah blah blah. And I kind of dealt with it and started to accept myself a little bit, but not really. And then about like sophomore year, my parents found Facebook messages of like me with the guy I was talking to at the time.
Okay.
And they like blew up, and they're very loud people and very aggressive.
Okay.
And just very much like the type of like, oh, this is wrong. You're gonna go to hell. You're an embarrassment to our family. Why would you do this? Why would you choose to like have this happen to you? Blah blah blah. Like we hate you. We hate this. And it was really really rough when I didn't accept myself.
Sure.
And then like I always loved my parents up until that point, and they didn't accept me. And so from that, it just kind of like went into like a very like deep bout of depression, where I was not sure of like, oh, should I be living on like here anymore? Like if my family doesn't love me, like how can I love myself? How can anyone else love me?
Yeah.
If like it's so wrong, like why should I even bother like existing? Which is a very like dark, not a good place to be. So I actually attempted suicide twice, was saved the second time by my best friend, which is awesome because he was someone who was going through something very similar. And so from that point kind of went into like some type of drug use of just kind of get away from everything and like deal with myself. My grades like plummeted, all this kind of stuff just kind of went downhill. And I wasn't able to figure out how to be happy. And that's kind of like the most cliche thing ever, but I really found a lot of happiness in playing music. And playing and finding that like outlet, like I could put in all my emotion and not worry about it. And one day I went up to Gainesville, Florida, and I met this violin maker, and I was able to like spend so much time with him and getting to know him, and like he helped me through a lot of stuff. He's this like cool guy from South Africa that was like seeing everything and like gave a lot of perspective of like, hey, this isn't the end of the world.
Right.
Which is like something that a kid like really needs to hear. Like they think like the world is ending, all the teenage hormones combined with like, oh my gosh, I'm this like weird person to the rest of the world. And so like from that point, I was able to stop everything that I was doing and kind of like redirect myself and be happy. My parents still weren't accepting of me, so it was more of like figuring out how to be happy without family. I was like basically on my own at that point. So I was with my best friend a lot, living with him, moving in with him. He was still dealing with a lot of the similar issues, but not as well. And one day I got a phone call from him that he had got kicked out of his house because his family had found out. And then 2 hours later I got a call from a mutual friend that he had killed himself. Which was really, really devastating. Because he did what he saved me from doing for the same reason. And I didn't even know how to process that, like how could someone like so awesome and so amazing just be gone because he just felt like he was different. And that was really, really hard. because I had the same feelings and was almost to that point. And so for me, it took a long time to kind of cope with that, because I still like had the reserved feelings of, oh, I'm different, all these things. And he thought he was different so much to the point that he ended his life.
Right.
So I was lucky enough to kind of like live through it and process. And when I was about 17, I was able to go work with like younger LGBTQIA youth.
Awesome.
And see what they were doing. And there's all these kids that were dealing with all this stuff, and they were so strong about it, and just so happy about it, who they were, like kicked out of their house, like, but still like so happy, which was really awesome to me. I wasn't sure like how they were doing it.
Right.
And then there was some that were just like so devastated. And I asked like this 13-year-old boy that was like kicked out of his house one time, I was like, how are you so like happy all the time and able to like be happy all the time? And he was like, well, for me, it's just, I know I'm different, but like that's what's awesome about me. And I was like, this 13-year-old kid is like realizing this about himself. That's so cool.
Yeah.
And I kind of changed my perspective of like, yeah, I'm gay, and yeah, I have all of these things, and I don't have family, and like I dealt with all of this, but like at this point in my life, I should be happy with who I am.
Yeah.
And now, like as a college student, I'm a full-time college student. I have like a full scholarship to go here. I have like all of these great things going for me. I'm part of like the undergraduate's government. I do like all of these things all the time, and I'm able to like impact people.
Uh-huh.
And if I had taken my life because of being different, I could never have done all these things to help like who I've been able to help. And if I hadn't been able to come to terms with loving myself for being different, because being different's the most awesome thing ever, and having the courage to stand up for that, I wouldn't be able to be as successful as I am.
Sure.
And it's such a like thing of like everyone always tells you, oh, it gets better, like it will get better, and when you're a kid, no one ever believes that. But like the reality is, it does. Like it will. At that moment of like the hardship of dealing with who you are, that's like that time. The future is like so much better.
Right.
So
Awesome.
interesting thing, I think, because for me, like I was able to come out to my friends in a very different way. Like when I came out to my family, came out. I didn't come out. They found out.
Yeah.
And so that was like very shocking, because I had this secret built up inside that I wasn't ready for them to know yet, and they like found out, and it just kind of like devastated my world because of the reaction. Coming out to my friends was very scary, but also nice, because I had this secret inside, and I was like so torn up about it. And a lot of my friends were supportive, some of them not so much. But at the end of it, like when everyone knew, even though my family was so messed up about it and all of this stuff, it still felt like a giant weight was lifted. Like I could just be me, and
Right.
I no longer had anything to hide, because I was the thing that in my brain I thought was the worst thing about myself actually turned out to be something not that big a deal at all, because it was just another part of who I was, and something I'm proud of now. And it was just a big weight lifted off my shoulders.
Awesome.
I would tell them first, like, there's nothing wrong with you at all. Because I think that's the biggest fear with so many people is, especially if they come from a family like I do, where you grew up with, oh, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is disgusting, this is against the Bible, blah, blah, blah. It's hard to separate that in your brain. And a lot of people are so scared of it, and they're so scared of losing their family, and so scared of losing themselves, because I think it's something that's wrong. And I think it's really hard to deal with that. And so my advice would just be to kids that are dealing with it, that no, there's nothing wrong with you. There's millions of other people just like you that are there to support you no matter what. And in that moment, it may seem like the worst thing in the world, but at the end of the day, when you grow up, like, your sexual orientation has nothing to do with who you are. It's just another facet of it, and it'll be okay. And the people that love you and care about you the most will stick with you through it.
Right.
And that's what matters, and that's how you'll know, like, who actually cares about you. I think, especially for youth, making more of a culture of understanding and letting them know from a young age that this is okay. So not having it be so stigmatized in the media of it being this big deal every single time like someone comes out, or every single time like someone's like, oh, I'm gay. Creating better facets in like the education system of understanding the full scope of like human sexuality, that it can be so many different things, and really just removing this idea from our brains that like being gay is something different, when it isn't. It's just something that is, and I think that is a societal norm that needs to be changed, and being able to better cope with when someone figures that out about themselves and is ready to come out, supporting them and not like attacking and all this kind of stuff, especially with young kids, because there's like hormones going, there's all these things going in their brain, they don't know how to like process everything.
Right.
And so I think just having a better education, having more funding for groups that are able to educate people, that are able to be that support system, that are able to offer therapy and coaching and things to youth, to help them process through that really confusing time for themselves.
Yeah. Awesome. Is there anything else you'd like to mention?
Just that for me, I've lost people because they thought they were different. I've almost lost myself because of it. And I think being different and having the courage to stand up and be different, no matter if you're gay, no matter if you're transsexual, no matter what, have the courage to do that and be proud of who you are. And in that moment, you're inspiring hundreds of other people to have that courage too. And don't let that be the defining factor of who you are either, because you're a million other beautiful things, and this just happens to be one extra thing.